Hello everyone, and welcome to my Stamina Necromancer PvP build guide. As usual, I will talk about skills, sets, and will give my class overview in the end of the video. Build with all the gear details and other information will be in the description. I was playing Necro a little bit couple months ago and a little bit just recently. My build was pretty much the same both times, and I was changing only couple things gear-wise. One of them was the mythic, which I will talk about a bit later. And the other thing was the main damage set. I've tried two options and I really liked both of them. Those were Clever Alchemist and Stuhn's Favor. Clever Alchemist gives you two nice lines of HP, weapon and spell damage, and then finally a huge amount of weapon and spell damage, but only for 20 seconds after you drink a potion. So decent stats all around and a lot of damage when you proc it. Stuhn's Favor also has all useful stats, and the 5-piece gives you a lot of penetration after you put the enemy off balance. And unlike Clever Alchemist, Stuhn's has pretty much constant uptime if you playing with Dizzying Swing. So you don't need to wait for 20 seconds burst window. I didn't notice much difference in damage and I think both sets are extremely good. Use whatever one you like the most. As my backbar set I use Rallying Cry. This set has become a staple one in most of my builds, and I think it might be the best PvP set in the game to set and forget on basically every build you play. It gives a lot of critical resistances and 300 weapon and spell damage to you and all your group, so you have amazing defense and very decent defense stats as well. As my monster set I use Balorgh. Same as Rallying Cry, it's probably the best damaged monster set in the game for PvP. It gives us weapon and spell damage line, and after we use our ultimate it gives us a lot of damage based on the amount of ultimate we had. And lastly, I use 1-piece Trainee, and as my mythic I've tried using Marking Ring of Majesty and Dev Dealer's Feet. I think both are very good. Marking gives us damage and defense, and Dev Dealers gives us around 3k extra resources. I was mostly using Dev Dealers because my Stamcro is Altmer and he doesn't have a lot of stamina naturally. Really helps me to better sustain, especially when I run damage potions or dubious Command Thrown Foot. I think you can also run Sea Serpent's Coil, but for that I'd suggest to use Race Against Time as well. Now let's talk about skills. On the front bar I have Executioner, Camo Hunter, Dizzying Swing, Stalking Blastbones, Mortal Coil, and as my ultimate I use Dawnbreaker of Smiting. You have an option to put Mortal Coil on your backbar and run Rally instead. Then, on backbar you will need to get rid of one of the skills as well. For example, it can be Elemental Susceptibility. That's how I was playing before. For setup without Rally though, you will have to run damage potions instead of Tri-Stat ones, so choose how you want to play. Executioner is our execute skill, imagine that. It deals a lot of damage to low health targets. That's pretty much it. Very strong and satisfying skill to use. Camo Hunter is here as usual for Major Savagery and Prophecy, Fighters Guild passives, and Cloaked Nightblades. Dizzying Swing is our main spammable and our source of off balance. It also stuns the enemies, which is very useful since we don't have stun on this build, other than this and Dawnbreaker. I tried using Ruinous Scythe as a spammable, and I definitely feel like it can be used without much problems. Yes, it might hit not as hard as Dizzy Swing, it might not stun the opponents, but it gives the same off balance and also heals us, which is very useful. Stalking Blastbones is our burst damage skill, you can also choose other morph here, do as you like the most. Mortal Coil is our extremely strong heal over time, also it gives us resources and it's completely free to use. You only need a corpse to activate the skill. Although I feel like the skill is crucial in your surviving, I think you can try to switch it for Race Against Time or Revealing Flare, or put them somewhere else in your build. For example, instead of Camo Hunter if you'll be using damage potions. And finally, Dawnbreaker of Smiting is our ultimate, which gives us Fighters Guild passives, does lots of damage and stuns our enemies. Now to the backbar. On my backbar I have Resistant Flash, Beckoning Armor, Resolving Vigor, Spirit Guardian, Elemental Susceptibility, and as my ultimate I use Temporal Guard. Resistant Flash is our burst heal from Magicka. After activating, it gives us spell and physical resistance equal to half the amount of healed for 3 seconds, which makes us even more tanky. Beckoning Armor is our armor buff, and it also reduces the cost of our summons by 15%. Resolving Vigor is our burst heal for stamina and our source of minor resolve. Spirit Guardian is our another very strong heal over time. Ghost will also take 10% of damage done to you to himself. Elemental Susceptibility is our major breach skill and provider of bunch of good status effects. If you want, you can use Razor Caltrops here, which will also give you major breach. And for my backbar ultimate I use Temporal Guard for 5% damage reduction, damage shield while blocking, and the potential escape button if I'm in a tight situation. Now, after I've talked about skills, I'd like to give my class overview. I might be wrong, but it seems like out of all classes in PvP right now, Necro is the least popular one. And usually in basically every tier list it's on the last place. And unfortunately I wouldn't say it's not deserved. But let's dive deeper into it and we'll try to understand why it's like that exactly. Because saying Necro is trash is easy, but to actually explain why might be a bit harder. I think the most sane take I've heard on Crow is from Deltia, who basically said that everything Crow can do, Warden can do better. I kinda agree with that, but also not really. Yes, probably Necro doesn't have such good skills as Warden. For instance, Warden has inbuilt Major and Minor Breach with Shulks. Also, he doesn't have to use them every 2 skills, and they aren't as clunky as Blast Bones, and you don't have to aim them. Warden has Recovery, Small Heal, Cleanse, and Major Brutality, and Sorcery is just 1 skill, which is also free to use, and it is Snatch. Warden has Minor Berserk, Snare Immunity, and Major Expedition in 1 skill as well, which is Bird of Prey. And honestly, on this I can stop. Because other than that, in my personal opinion, Stamina Warden and Stamina Necro are basically identical. And what do I mean by that is those are piano classes, how I like to call them. Which means that playing them is like playing a piano, where you need to press 1 million buttons all the time. It's about 5 constant buffs you need to keep up, and the same is spammable in Blast Bones and Shulks. And I personally don't really like to play with this. As much as I want Warden and Crow to be fun, and to be honest they still are, I get tired of that gameplay pretty quickly. Because most of the time what you do in a fight is buff yourself. You literally do that more than doing damage. So you have to keep all those buffs, and then you have a short burst window where you need to do all your damage. It's ideal when you can hit your semi-spammable followed by your spammable or ultimate and then finish the target with your execute. With Clever Alchemist it's even more stuff to do, because you also need to drink a potion before it. This is honestly my main issue with both of those classes. Because while I think they both can do amazing damage and can be very fun to play, messing with all those buffs is just tiring for me. Other thing that Deltia said is that Crow has very predictable damage, and I agree with that. Blast Bones are easy to notice and you can even roll dodge them. Same as this swing, so rip with that. Another thing I want to mention is tankiness. If we talk about Necro, it's insanely tanky. And it's one of those classes I was able to not only stay alive against multiple opponents, but even kill them eventually. Honestly, I don't think I had those moments often, if at all, on any other class. In conclusion, Stamcro is a class that looks fun, has good burst damage and tankiness, but it has a lot of micromanagement, which turns me off from playing it pretty quickly. Honestly, this thing is so real. One ESO YouTuber called Barba recently made a video where he plays macro without armor buff and without major brutality and sorcery buff. So it's minus 2 skills, which can be a little bit of a lifesaver. But for that, he had to run Stuhn and Rattle Cage, which aren't really the best PvP sets to say the least. I myself was actually thinking of dropping weapon and spell damage buff, as well as armor, and run Stuhn too with damage potions. That might actually work, but I haven't tried it yet. Overall, I like Necro in terms of damage, healing and its team, but I don't like doing buffs 24/7 when I'm doing PvP, which is a big issue for this class. I think currently, out of all classes, Crow is probably one of my least favorite ones, but I don't mind to play it sometimes and have fun with it when I'm able to do so. Maybe macro is the answer, I might try it at some point, but for now, it's all I have to say. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.